We are here with Steve Cook, who is currently a nominee for Circuit Court Judge for the 5th Judicial District of Tennessee in Blount County. So Steve, why did you decide to run for this position, and when did you decide to run?
I decided to run just about as soon as I read it in the paper. And why I decided to run was because it's a perfect time for me in the progression of my career. I've been a federal prosecutor for 24 years. I feel like I've achieved many things in that role, and this gives me an opportunity to take the skill set that I've developed and take it one level further and still serve my community.
So throughout your life, you've had a variety of experiences. You mentioned just now being the Assistant U.S. Attorney for 24 years. You also were a clerk under Judge Milburn. You were a police officer, even being a parent. Which one of those experiences would you say has made you the most prepared for being a judge?
You know, all of them have in important ways. Being a parent, I think, teaches you many skills. It teaches you patience. It teaches you that there are times to be firm. There are times when you have to show compassion. Clerking for Judge Milburn was also a valuable experience because it gave me the opportunity to see the internal operation and the workings of a very good judge in the decision-making process that he used.
What, in your opinion, is the most important quality that a good judge needs to have?
I think it would all be encapsulated under judgment, and I say that because I think judgment has several parts. First of all, I think judgment includes in part academic ability. I think any judge has to have, in order to have good judgment, has to have sound academic ability. I think a judge, in order to have sound judgment, has to have integrity. I think a judge, to have sound judgment, has to have experience. I think a judge, in order to have good judgment, also has to have an excellent work ethic, or all of the other things I just talked about are meaningless. And then finally, but maybe most importantly, a judge has to have strong leadership skills. And the reason for that is that judge is going to set the tone in the courtroom, in the courthouse, and in the community at large. And so all of those things, I think, distill into good judgment.
In the past, your jobs have all been based almost entirely on merit. With this new job, a new aspect comes into play with public opinion and politics, especially in getting reelected. How are you prepared to deal with that new aspect of the job?
Well, I think the answer to that is that I would trust in the public to make its decision and to rely on me to make an impartial decision in cases, setting aside politics and deciding cases entirely on the law and the facts. And if I do that, I trust that the public would want to keep me in my position. That's what they've asked me to do.
Why do you think that you personally stand out as a candidate for this position?
Well, going back to the 5 qualities that we talked about, that is the academic ability, the integrity, the experience, the work ethic, and the leadership. I believe that I possess all 5 of those characteristics. And again, last time I told you when we were discussing this that leadership is the most important one. I have had the privilege of being a supervisor, most recently supervising for two and a half years, 35 assistant U.S. attorneys handling hundreds of cases in our four offices across the district. And I think that is among the experience that I have that makes me qualified.
And just to throw this in there, at the hearing on Tuesday, one of your speakers mentioned that in the whole country there are only 94 people in your position. So I just wanted to remind everyone that nationally you are one of 94. Well,
thanks for saying that. There are 5,700 assistant United States attorneys across the district in the 94 districts, and it was Sandy Dennis who pointed that out, and thank you for bringing that up.
Governor Haslam will ultimately make the decision about who replaces Judge Young. If you could sit down with him and have a one-on-one conversation, what is it that you would most want to say to him?
I think what I'd want to say to him is what most citizens would want to say to him, and that is, to make this decision based entirely on merit, and it would be that simple.
How would you respond to people who might say that you're a lifetime prosecutor, or that you are more partial to the prosecution side versus the defendant side just because of the job you've had for the past 24 years?
Well, I would say that and I would hope that what they know about me is that I've been a zealous advocate for the prosecution, because that's what the people of the United States have hired me to do. If I'm selected for this judgeship, the role that I will have is very different, and I think that I will be able to make that transition and handle that impartial position just as well and just as clearly and zealously as I have the position I'm in. And there are lots of examples of prosecutors who've done that. Judge Collier, the Chief United States District Judge in Chattanooga, was a career prosecutor. The United States District Judge Ronnie Greer up in Greenville was a career defense attorney. Both have set aside their partisan pasts and have become neutral and fantastic jurists.
Going along with that same concept, do you think it'll be hard for you to leave the position you've had for so long and sit back and watch as someone else does that job?
Well, I think it will. I have really enjoyed the job I have, but having had it for 24 years, I certainly understand how it should be done, and there's no question that I would have high expectations of prosecutors who appear before me.
Most judges have very specific styles. Some are extremely aggressive, whereas others are more maybe compassionate or understanding with the defendants. If you became judge, what do you think your style would be like?
Well, I would hope that my style would incorporate both. Earlier we talked about one of the qualities of a good judge. One of the key qualities that I mentioned is experience. And an experienced judge I would hope, and my goal would be to distinguish between when those styles are important. Clearly there are defendants where compassion is important and would be appropriate. There are other cases where a much stiffer and sterner approach, and so I think it's important for a judge to look at every case and every defendant individually and deal with it appropriately.
Professionally, what would you say has been your greatest accomplishment so far?
Well, I would have to say that being the chief of the criminal division, that is the position I currently hold, is the culmination of many years of hard work and experience. I've held that position now through two U.S. attorneys, two presidentially appointed U.S. attorneys from different parties, and the fact that they've entrusted me with a position of such importance in our office is a great honor.
Is there someone in your life that you'd consider to be a mentor?
A mentor? There have been many. I would have to say among those were my dad, who was a judge with the Military Court of Review, and from whom, of course, I learned many life skills, to include how to analyze legal issues. As we've discussed earlier, there was the federal judge that I clerked for in the Sixth Circuit, Judge Milburn, who taught me many important skills in the legal area. And then finally, I would have to say the United States Attorney, under whom I served most of my tenure in the United States Attorney's Office, because he was either a supervisor or my U.S. Attorney throughout that time, Russ Dedrick. So I would have to say at least those three people.
Okay, and kind of to wrap up, last time I talked to you was before the Judicial Nominating Commission met and chose the three names they're going to send to Governor Haslam. And now, after that meeting, they gave you very good support in their vote. Were you surprised to get such strong support from the Commission? Did you expect that?
I don't know if I expected, but I would have to tell you that I was very honored. The Commission, as you know, was made up of 15 people from East Tennessee, West Tennessee, and Middle Tennessee. It was made up of Democrats, Republicans. It was made up of prosecutors and defense attorneys. It was made up of lay people and lawyers. It was made up of people of different genders and race. And to have them uniformly that is to say unanimously, vote to send my name to Governor Haslam was an incredible honor.
Well, thank you very much for your time. That's all the questions that I have
Well,
for
thank you
so
for
good luck.
interviewing. Thank you.